Welcome back to the top-down adventure tutorial in GameMaker. This is of course focused on Year 11 NCEA digital technology in New Zealand, but feel free to watch the video and learn from this if you're new to programming. There will be more efficient ways to do the things that I'm about to do. There may also be less efficient ways to do them. But keep in mind that this is not the only way to do this. It's not like there's some big book of how to program and there's only one way to solve every single problem that could ever exist, and every programmer needs to learn this book. That's not how it works. There are literally hundreds of ways to do what I'm about to do, and this is just one of them. So we just need to think of the logic and then think of how we can actually implement that in code. What I've gone ahead and done is created a sprite for the wall, and I just want to show you this here because it is semi-transparent. What I did, I made a new 32 by 32 sprite, set its opacity over here to 128. I'm going to set it back up to 255 now that I've done that. And I just made it a really bright pink so it stands out. And then I made an object called object wall, which is not visible but is solid. And then in my room, I've started to put these objects over the different things that I've got in here. So over those trees, because I'm going to make it that these are going to be the things that block the player. They're not going to be able to move through these objects. They're going to collide with them and then stop. In fact, they're not going to collide with them. They're just not going to move into them if these objects are in their way. So I'll finish that up later. What I'm going to do is in the step event, we're going to add some code in here. First of all, though, I'm going to add some code comments. So this is Boolean to determine if keys are, or if player can move. Okay, and or player is moving might be a better way to say that. Player is moving. Check if player is aligned to grid, and then apply the movement. So that's what all that stuff down there does, apply the movement and determine direction. Now it's really important, I haven't been code commenting as much as I should be. It's really important that you get good code comments. Now these are sufficient. These are actually good code comments. Bad code comments would be if M up and aligned are both true, set temp dir to 90. Now this is a useless code comment. It's longer to read than the actual line of code, and it just says the exact same thing. Okay, what you want to do with your code comments is describe the purpose. Describe the purpose of the code block. And in this case, this describes this sufficiently, and it describes it pretty succinctly as well, brief. Okay, anyone coming to look at this can say, okay, Boolean, all right, that's what that's for, that's what that's for. And of course, in order to read code, you need to be able to understand the code. And so, I mean, you're not trying to code comment for the sake of a whole lot of people out in the public that would look at your code and be confused, but for the purpose of other coders that might come along to update your code or whatever, and they might be confused. So that's why we put code comments in. Now up here, what I want to do is I'm actually going to put a second condition on this to check if it is free or not, to check if the keyboard, if the player can move up. That's why I said Boolean determine if player is moving. At the moment, the only condition for M up to be true is for the mouse, is for W key to be pushed. But we also want to check if the place above the player is free. Same with M down. We want to check if the place below the player is free. So let's go into Paint. Here's my little player, and this is his bounding box. Okay, I might actually draw this guy bigger. Here's my player, and he's holding a sword. And this is the bounding box. So this is the kind of thing that contains the sprite. Now, his origin is up here in this game, but we're not concerned about the origin when we're checking for positions being free in GameMaker. What we're concerned about is the bounding box. So what I want to do, if I want to check if there is something directly to his left, well, this is the X position of the left side of the bounding box. I don't know what number it is. It doesn't matter what number it is. It's just, that's the X of it. And X minus 1 is here. Right there. And that's what I want to check when I'm moving to the left. I want to see if that position is free. The Y value doesn't change. Okay, the Y value is still pretty much on this line here. When he's moving along the X-axis, and I'll just grab this. When he's moving along the X-axis, he's moving that way. Whoops, I didn't mean to do that. He's not moving up and down. So in GameMaker, when I'm checking left, and I'll do the left one first because that's what I talked about, I want to use a function called placeFree. And what placeFree does is it checks for a collision with any instance flagged as solid. So we don't need to tell it what to check for. We're just going to see if there's a solid thing there. And it returns a Boolean. Okay, so it's going to be true or false. So let's have a look at how this would work. X minus 1, Y. We're only checking to the left. So X minus 1 is the left of that bounding box. Now what's going to happen is it's going to come along here and say, move left equals, well, is the A key being pushed? And maybe I'm holding down the A key. Is the place next to the player free? No, it's not. So both of these conditions are not true. So this would be false. The AND operator is a logic operator that the left and right expressions must be true for the entire expression to be true. And we did that down here before. If that is true and that is true, then we'll do this here. So if this is true and this is true, well, it's going to actually just resolve. So this will be equal to either true or false, and it will get put in there. So I'm going to do the rest of these and placeFree. This is down. So the X-axis is not changing. It's the Y one. And you might think that it's minus, but in GameMaker, if you remember from earlier tutorials, or if you just know this, top left corner is 0, 0. And this is because of the way that screens get drawn. It's been like this for a long time. So top left corner is 0, 0. And as we go across, well, the X-axis increases. That's normal. But as we go down, the Y increases. And as we go up, the Y decreases. So up and placeFree X, Y minus 1. It's going to check the position just above the player's bounding box. And this is going to be X plus 1 for right Y. So I can test this now. Hopefully, if I've done everything right, I shouldn't be able to move through those boxes. Okay, so I can't move that way. I can move down. I can move everywhere. But I can't move through. I can move through. There'll be something I can move through over here. Because I know it. Yeah, there we go. Because I didn't put anything there. So if I just turn these on so that they are visible, you'll be able to see what's happening a little bit clearer. So it's actually colliding with these objects here, and it's not letting me go into them. Okay, I can still fire through them. That's something that I'll want to fix up later on. And the reason that I can walk over these trees down here is because I haven't put any walls over them. So that's something that I'd want to fix up and make those walls invisible, because they look horrible without it. And go objects, put that wall there and make it a bit bigger. That one there and that one there. All right, so now I can move around that room and not move through these things. In order for me to move up, 2 conditions have to be met. I have to be pushing the W key, and the place above the player has to be free. Same for down, left, right, I would say etc., but they're the only 4 conditions there. So 2 conditions have to be free because of this AND operator. Down here we've got an OR operator. Any of these conditions, only one of them has to be true for it to do this. So if up is true, or down is true, or right is true, or left is true, it means that We must be moving, so we'll do that code. If none of them are true though, I'm probably not touching the keyboard, and so it's not going to do that code. It's just going to ignore it. And because as soon as it gets aligned, speed gets set to 0, if it ignores this, it's not going to start moving. So this was the logic that I followed for creating this simple player movement code. I'm sure it could be improved upon immensely. There's probably hundreds of other ways to do it. And I mean, feel free to have a look around on GameMaker. There's probably a forum available for GameMaker. There's probably a subreddit available for GameMaker. There is a subreddit available for GameMaker. And I mean, you can go and ask questions on there. You can look up different tutorials online. So, I mean, I'm not the only person making tutorials here. There's a great set of tutorials by Sean Spalding. I think he's one of the, this guy here. He actually makes a whole lot of really good tutorials. And there's loads of tutorials that are in this, what would you call this? Kind of like little feed that comes up when you load GameMaker. Some schools may have it blocked. I know it's blocked at my school. But, I mean, if you're using this at home, if you've got it on Steam, this will show up. There's loads of tutorials in there. Next video, we'll look at modifying a few small things to do with player movement, getting rid of fireball, kind of finalizing our player movement. And then we'll start to introduce some enemies.